Hello, I'm Dr. Brandt Gibson, and today I'd like to talk to you about plantar fasciitis. I've talked about this multiple times, but as I was talking to some individuals today at soccer games and basketball games and so forth, I felt like it was important that I go through the very basics again and give you a little bit of information. I'm not going to use videos, I'm not going to use a screen, I'm really just going to talk to you face to face and give you the basics. So first things first, think about this. You wake up first thing in the morning. You step down on the floor and your foot hurts like crazy. Hurts right on the heel or sometimes right just behind the arch, and you can hardly walk. You feel like you're walking like you're an old man, an old woman, and you can't even function like you really want to function. And you kind of hobble into the bathroom, and then after you walk for a minute, it starts to get better. Or maybe you sit down and you watch a movie with your family and you get up and you start to move and it hurts like crazy. Does this describe what's happening to you? Is this what's happening to you? The truth is, in most cases, it's plantar fasciitis. In most cases, you have an inflammation of the ligament on the bottom of the foot, and it causes pretty significant pain, pretty significant discomfort. First step in the morning, or after sitting for a period of time. I mean, if you drive for a period of time and get out of the car and start trying to walk, it causes pretty significant pain there as well. And this, again, is plantar fasciitis. So you have your heel, you have the Achilles tendon that attaches on the back, the plantar fascia that attaches on the bottom. They're pulling against each other. The plantar fascia gets inflamed, painful, and tender, and it starts to hurt like crazy. So then a lot of times you're saying, okay, what can I do for this? There are really 4 things you can do at home. Number 1, you can limit activities. Most of us aren't able to do that. But if you limit your activities, you're not up on it, you're kind of staying off it for a period of time, that pain does go away. Again, I couldn't do that. My wife couldn't do that, so that's not a great option for a lot of people. Number 2, you can ice it really, really well, especially at the end of the days. And icing it, you can put ice rod on it, you can put your foot in an ice bucket. Even easier, you can take a water ball and freeze it, and you can roll your foot across it, and it will massage the area and ice it, so it'll decrease that swelling, get that swelling out of there, and it will actually decrease the pain. Does it solve the problem? It doesn't. It's treating symptoms. You can use ibuprofen. Short periods of time, you can use quite a bit of ibuprofen if necessary to treat this. I'd limit 600, 800 milligrams every 6 to 8 hours at the most, and I would only do that for a very short period of time. Most of the time, you should stick to 200, maybe 400 milligrams. What that's going to do, same thing. It doesn't fix the problem. It decreases the swelling, and it helps alleviate it. And so rest, ice, anti-inflammatories, and then sometimes you can do inserts. Now you want to be very, very careful if you go to the store and say, okay, I'm going to go buy inserts for plantar fasciitis, because there's all kinds of stores, all kinds of places that are going to sell you plantar fasciitis inserts. The truth is, there's not an insert or a brace or anything that's really going to solve your problem unless they change the way you walk. So when it comes to inserts, there's 5 levels. There's the pads that are really just gel. They don't help a whole lot. They're kind of just padding. Sometimes with plantar fasciitis, they'll feel better, but they're not fixing anything. Number 2 is arch supports. A lot of times these are not functional for most people. If you don't have a good size arch, they're going to be uncomfortable. Me, I'm really, really flat. I tell people I walk like Fred Flintstone or like a hobbit, and because of that, my feet are so flat that any kind of these inserts hurt like crazy. Number 3 are the basically specialized ones that you can get to running stores and so forth like that, where they're a little bit better. They've got several different types that you can actually do. They will help. They can actually be beneficial. The 4th is semi-custom type orthotics. There's 2 types of semi-customs. Ones are heat moldable. You heat them up, they mold to your foot. Or the other type is actually based specifically on how you walk. We carry a brand in our office called Steps, and they're basically designed to modify based on the way you walk, and we put you into one of 6 categories of walking, and based on that we can get you in the orthotic that will do 2 things. It'll adjust your back of your foot, and it'll adjust the front of your foot. Not pushing up on your arch. Arch supports don't work. It needs to be something that modifies the way you walk, and so it moves the back of the foot to make it to a neutral position, moves the front of the foot to make it to a neutral position, and together the foot functions like it's supposed to. Number 5 is a custom orthotic, which is always the best. They're also the most expensive. But a custom orthotic is designed just for you, based on how you walk, based on how your foot's shaped, and based on how your foot should be functioning. And so those are typically the inserts that you want to look at if you're going to do inserts. So those are things you can do at home. Like I said, a lot of times with semi-custom and custom orthotics, you may have to be seen by a doctor to get them anyway. If you go to the doctor, so you say, okay, I do have plantar fasciitis, I'm going to go into the doctor. What are some of the things that you should expect the doctor to do? Number one, they should evaluate the plantar fascia. And part of that should include doing x-rays to make sure you don't have something else going on. If you have a stress fracture to your heel, the treatments for plantar fasciitis could make the stress fracture worse. Heel spurs are not the reason of this pain. That's something very, very important. Even though you're going to do an x-ray and they can say, oh, you have a heel spur, that's why it hurts. Heel spurs on the plantar surface, the bottom of the foot, don't hurt. They're a symptom of the problem and they don't need to be treated. Ultrasound is the best way to evaluate the plantar fascia, and by doing an ultrasound you can actually see if the plantar fascia is swollen. It works really, really well to evaluate and give you treatment options. So first thing, they need to evaluate the plantar fascia. Number two, they need to work on helping you get your symptoms resolved. What do I mean by that? Pain is the reason you're there. Pain, swelling, and so they can help you with the swelling, they can help you with the pain, and there are 3 ways that we found that work well for that. One is cortisone shots or some kind of an injection to reduce the swelling. Advantage of cortisone shot, works 4 to 6 weeks to decrease that swelling and actually assist in the problem. There are also forms of laser. MLS laser has been shown to be very, very effective at treating plantar fasciitis. You actually treat the plantar fascia over a period of 6 to 10 treatments. It decreases pain, decreases swelling, and stimulates the heel. So as opposed to the cortisone shot where you're treating symptoms, this actually can cause it to heal as well. But you're basically relieving the pain, relieving the symptoms by treating it with the MLS laser. So those are the most common. Sometimes you can even do an oral steroid. That would be the third one. You can do an oral steroid instead of a cortisone shot. Oral steroids can work. The disadvantage of an oral steroid, it only works while you're taking the steroid. As soon as you stop, then it stops working. The other big problem with that is it comes back pretty aggressively if you don't do something to fix it. So that first piece, treating the symptoms, is the one part of seeing your doctor for plantar fasciitis. The other part is how do you make sure it doesn't come back. Again, orthotics fit in here, semi-custom, custom orthotics to help adjust the way you walk. There's a surgery that can be done for this where you actually take the plantar fascia, do what's called topaz surgery, where you treat the plantar fascia, cause it lengthening. There are other surgeries that were previously done or that sometimes are still done by some doctors for plantar fasciitis. In most cases, they're only 50% effective. I don't recommend them. I usually recommend you go towards like a topaz type procedure where we take that plantar fascia and create little mini tears and allow it to lengthen. The point here is you need to know how you're going to treat it to get rid of the swelling. So let's treat the symptoms, let's get rid of the swelling, and then let's prevent it from coming back. And by doing those 2 things, you have the best chance of continuing to be active and not having to limit what you're doing. Truth is, none of us want to get old. None of us want to stop doing the things that we enjoy doing. Plantar fasciitis is not a reason that you should have to stop. There are things you can do to continue to be active and continue to run, continue to play with your kids, continue to do whatever it is that would make your day the way you want it to be. So if you have plantar fasciitis, I recommend that you be seen by a doctor and get an option. You say, okay, what are you going to do to help me get rid of the symptoms? And then what are you going to do to help me solve this problem? For additional information to see us, you can actually go to utahfootdoc.com. If you watch here in the very near future, I'm going to actually have some options for you to actually give you additional information, additional help at home. So if you say, well, I want to do as much as I can myself, these will give you those tools so you could actually, one, have the right questions to ask if you do go to the doctor, but also have all the tools you need at home. This is Dr. Brandt Gibson, and this is your Podiatry Tips Day 339, plantar fasciitis. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We'll see you again next week.